the wood is pretty much junked. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but people have been asking about water sports, and we're bringing back some of the old school water sports that we've done in the past and updating some of the things on them and with them. So I had a couple people ask about the pontoon build, and I want to go through the pontoon build and how it held up. We only got a chance to use it at the end of the season last year, so there wasn't really much fun, I should say, in the Pontoon. So what we ended up doing is putting it away for storage, and I want to show you kind of how it basically how it dealt with the winter. So not real great. There was ups and downs, and part of that is because, well, I sucked at winterizing it. So the cover that I had made, I was going to do a video on, but it ended up turning out to be a fail. What I originally did is I did PVC bands that kind of went up and around, and then a large boat cover that went over top of it. The reason for that is a lot of times, you guys will probably know if you've had pontoons before, when you get a cover and your cover sits on top of your vinyl, especially if it's a white or light color, you get that black kind of mold stuff all over it. So you really want to keep your cover up and above the furniture. And as you can see, the back deck being so tall, I had to have it way, way, way up at the top. So it didn't work. It must have broke like 5 different times throughout the winter, which kind of sucked. And that's the reason I didn't make a video, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been all upset if I had a bunch of other people do the same thing and it failed for them as well. So let's go through, let's look at this thing and see what's going on with it. Because the top failed, our loungers failed, as you'll see right here, the wood is pretty much junked. And so we have a fix for that. I'll show you that in this video. We'll get to that. Everything else, though, is pretty much, this is all dirt from top of the cover. I had to cut holes in it to leak the water. As you can see, there's plenty of water back there, almost like a lake, getting it off. You can see algae down its side. And we even actually had a bird's nest back in there, which they have been relocated back there inside that little bucket thing. Hopefully their mother finds them. We'll try to make sure that that happens. Anyhow, like I said, the boat so far is good. I haven't touched the motor yet. I'm assuming that's fine. Nothing got to that. At this point, it's just dirty, and we need to replace the wood that you see here. Now, even though we lacquered it and did everything that we could to probably protect this thing, it obviously did not work with the water getting in it. You can also see there is probably a cat or something that's been inside here. Unfortunately, it is what it is. This year, we'll end up paying for a custom cover, because when you kind of put a lot of money into something, it's not worth having it get ruined by nature, Mother Nature itself. So, or herself, I should say. Anyhow, what we're going to do right now, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to fix this. Not a big deal. It's going to cost probably about $125, but I am going to use the same product that we used on the rest of it. I didn't actually know that they sold that stuff. They sell it in 4x8 sheets. Now they do, that's a 1/2 inch. They do sell a 3/4 inch, but they don't sell it in sheets. I even contacted the manufacturer, who is Royal Building Products. They told me, nope, no go. You have to get the 1/2 inch if you want the whole sheet. Otherwise, you'll end up spending like $600 just doing those tops, which is kind of ridiculous. So I think we can reinforce the 1/2 inch and make it work. So that said, let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up, and then we'll start working on it. Oh, and another FYI, for what you see is so-called stainless steel hinges, I don't think they're stainless steel at all. In fact, I think they're just steel that are clear coated. You can see that those last about as well as the wood did. So let's go ahead and move forward. All right, anybody want to play some bets to see if this thing will turn over? I have not yet touched it. I'm gonna say between all these batteries, something's gonna turn over. So I'm gonna switch it to 1 and 2. You can see we put mothballs all through it to keep the mice away, and that did work. Let's go ahead and see. Ooh, that's good news. All right, sweet. We are good on the motors, and the batteries are good, so I'll go ahead and shut those off for now. We do have to do a little bit of work with the vacuum to suck all this out of here. Not a big deal. Again, this won't happen next year because we'll have the cover, but there's some tiny touch-ups. You even see at the bases right here. A little bit of surface rust. We'll get that painted up and cleared up. But anyways, let's keep going. Ugh, what a mess. So the first thing we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna pressure wash this thing from top to bottom, and hopefully we can get most of the grime off it. Speaking of there is the snowmobile build that nobody gave a crap about. Everybody was like, don't want that. I literally tried to give it away, like actually give it away, and nobody wanted it. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I guess donate it or set it on fire, maybe blow it up. I don't know. I only know what to do with it. You guys got ideas, comment below. Anyhow, let's hook up this pressure washer. Let's start blowing this thing to pieces. All right, let's get to it. All right, so the boat cleaned up pretty good. Not everything is perfect. I haven't wiped down the vinyl yet. You can still kind of see if you look up close. There's a little bit of discoloration if you can pick that up. Not a big deal. The floors overall, they held up okay. I'm kind of confused. There's some areas like you'll see like rust spots. And I don't know why, because there was no leftover metal. So I don't seem to understand what that came from. It's in random places, but it's there nonetheless. The other part I will say that upset me is the paint on the railings. Now let me explain to you what I mean. So giving this thing a quality score as far as how it held up, I'd say it's probably a B. And the reason I say that is not so much that the flooring isn't perfect. I wouldn't expect it to without being completely covered. That was really my fault as far as my hacked winter covering job I shouldn't have done. But if you look at the railings, see how that paint is peeling right there? It's all over the place. This is from me pressure washing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, you shouldn't pressure wash all over the place or so close or whatnot. And it actually wasn't the reasoning of why it chipped off. In fact, I was probably 3 feet away from it. I mean, it's all over the place. You can kind of see it all over the place here. Anyways, I was probably 3 feet away from it with the pressure washer. And that should have been taking it off. And I used a self-etching primer, which would be the reason it didn't stick, because it's supposed to make that paint stick to metal, and clearly it did not. So I have to go back to the other video and definitely not recommend the stuff that I used. I don't remember what it was, but I did use a urethane clear over top. It usually is bulletproof. So that tells me it is the primer layer, the base layer that gave out. So in any case, it isn't a big deal. We're pretty much done with the cleaning. I'll wipe down the seats and stuff later on. But while I have the hose out, I want to go ahead and get this thing fired up to make sure that our engine is still good. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I got the muffs on. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the water on, like so. I'm gonna reach back here while I'm back here, and I'm gonna prime the prime ball. Oh, looks like it's leaking right there. I ain't good, huh? But whatever. Throw gas in the hand. Let's rinse it off, right? All right, let's get up in that boat and try to turn this thing over. All right, battery's on. Choke. Push key to choke. Oop, push key to choke. Over. All right, so something's going on with this turnover. It's not firing, so let me get the engine covers off and check it out. Actually, this is kind of embarrassing, so before I do that, let's look to see what's wrong right here right now. Yeah, the gas line's not hooked up. Kind of need that. That's why it was squirting back out at me. So, can't all be intelligent. That's what it is. Anyways, let's get this thing on there. Try it again. There it is. Pump till it's solid. 4 or 5 pumps ought to do it. Let's try her again. Well, it's working. Just hold the choke on for a minute. All right, let me get out here and use 2 hands. All right, guys, it just took 2 hands. I had to kind of finesse the throttle a little bit right here while I was using the choke, but we got it running now. So, good news. Looks like I'm not back there, but I don't see water coming out of what they call the pisser, so I'm gonna get down there and just double check that it's all right. All right, so I'm glad I checked the whatchamacallit there actually fell off it, the earmuffs or whatever they're called. So I'm glad that I got out and checked, because that could have been disastrous. Hopefully it didn't do any damage to the impeller, but it was only for a few seconds, so we're probably all right. I'm gonna let it run for probably about 20 minutes. We'll make sure it's cleared out, so when we bring it on the water, it's gonna be okay. But let's go ahead and move forward. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and feel the head. I went ahead and split the engine case, and I wanna feel, or the cover, I wanna feel, it's pretty warm. Probably warmer than it should be, considering that it had cold water running through it. Not bad. We knew that it was getting water because obviously it was pissing out the pisser. I probably shouldn't even say that on YouTube. I don't know if it's a bad word or not. Anyhow, I'll probably end up changing the impeller just because it's probably not been done in a long time. We don't know the actual condition of it, and it's really not that hard of a job. Though I've not done it on this motor before, I've done it on other motors, and it wasn't that bad, so we'll probably do a separate video on that. But for now, let's go ahead and move forward and keep with the boat. So what you see right here is actually the ladder that gets down into the water from the side. I'm not sure I really like it. I mean, it is pretty big and heavy duty, but it's so bulky, there's really nowhere to put it. So I'm gonna kind of research and see if there's something better that I can do that maybe we can store away or something, or put somewhere. That thing is just massive. I don't like the size of it, so I don't want to do with that yet. But for now, I think what we should do is go ahead and start working on these chase lounges, because as you can see, and as I already told you, those things need fixed. All right, so it's time to pull off these top boards. And yes, they're still really bad, I know, but we gotta get them off. So all we're gonna do is basically take these boards. We are gonna cut the measurements to size of our PVC plat board and yeah, just replicate them in plastic. So let's go ahead and do it. I thought this was kind of funny. I just kind of got to do it on camera. It just comes right off. It's so bad. So there is our new sheet of material. There's our material marked out. And there's all the panels finished. Damn, I'm good to you. You don't have to watch any of that crap. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and test fit the boards to make sure everything lines up, and it looks like they do. Key right now is to make sure you center this board, because when you put the hinges on, it's gonna push it out just a hair, and you wanna make sure it's still closed on each end. So I've got that set up. I'm gonna hit the screws inside the main one here. We'll put the hinges on the doors, and we'll hit the doors to the main center. Okay, so it's all put together now. As you can see, everything hinges and works fine. And yes, it's filthy in there. I never cleaned out inside there. So as far as, I had my reservations on how sturdy it would be at a 1/2 inch, but I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and lay on it. It holds 215 pretty good. So I'm gonna say we're good there. Let's go ahead and get this other side done. Okay, so now that those are done, it's time to go ahead and move forward. Next project is our ladder. Now, as I already told you, the ladder is a nice ladder. It is large, it's heavy duty, it folds, but it's massive. It screws up the floor when it lays on the floor, and it's gotta go. I bought a new ladder. Let's go ahead and grab it and put it on. All right, so moving forward, we are going to replace this ladder, and the first step of replacing the ladder is getting rid of the old one. So let's go ahead and lift this thing off and throw it out of our way. One of the next steps here is gonna be closing this deck, because we gotta test fit our new ladder and make sure that it is not going to get in the way of the door when it's opening and closing. So it's fairly close, but we do have enough room. What I'm going to do, I'm going to run ahead and grab a drill bit. I'm going to go ahead and drill this out and mount this on. I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so I have a bit of a dilemma. Now there's two different ways to mount this thing. You can put 2 bolts on each side. As you can see here, there's a bolt hole here, bolt hole back there. Do that on both sides, and it's permanent and it stays there. Then I started thinking about it, and I think the second option might be better, which is basically you have a bolt that sticks out slightly, and this kind of pops down and slides back on it, and as you apply pressure on the ladder itself, it pulls against it and makes sure that the ladder doesn't come off. Downside to that is what happens if somebody drops it in the water. Well, it's going down, it's sinking, unless you attach some kind of tether to it. The bad side of the other way of doing it is I just realized that if this thing is down, like so, all right, and you're pulling into the dock, what are you hitting? That's not good. That's going to destroy that thing. So I almost have to make it removable. So now I got to step back and think exactly what kind of bolt setups do I want to use, because they're going to have to, the head of it's going to have to stick out just a hair. And obviously I don't want somebody, you know, stubbing their toe or stepping on a kind of a sharp edged bolt. So I have to see if I can find some round headed stainless steel carriage bolts. Let me do a little digging. I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I think I've figured it out, and I think I have a solution that at least that you guys will be somewhat proud of. So here's what I came up with. Essentially, I'm going to take a carriage bolt like this, and it's all stainless, and I have a washer underneath it, a fender washer, so it kind of sits out like so. And what you'll see will happen is that'll slide down. Well, a better idea when I hide that. That slides down there and then back inside just like this. And so it's removable, it holds it on, and it'll be plenty sturdy when this is sitting up, and nobody will cut their foot or get hurt when they step on that. The other part of that is I went ahead and took a stainless steel loop like you see right here. This is actually for an old bimini top that I never used. And I just have some paracord right now. but that's going to be our tether just in case anything was to happen and this was to fall off. Now the paracord is just temporary. I do have some stainless steel braided rope or wire that I think is perfect off a utility light, but I can't seem to find it. I know I have it somewhere, and that's probably what will replace this, but for now, this will be a good working setup. So let me go ahead, get that thing all bolted up, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I think that is a super clean design, the way it's sunk in. I don't have to worry about anybody stepping on this and hurting their foot. I'm not sure why it says gas on it, but it does. Just gonna have to deal with that. As far as use and functionality, really simple. All you're gonna do is take your tether, clip it on, grab your ladder. If I can do this with one hand, slide it on like so, fold it out, fold it down, and as simple as that. I really like the design. Plus, it's so small that I can fit it on the side of the captain's helm with no issues whatsoever. I think this is definitely a win. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part. Next thing is we've got a mono grill. Now, I had it ready at the end of last season when we finished this video. I never put it on though due to the winter, and I had to get some wing nuts. I got those now. We're gonna slide that in to this back part right here, and it'll be good to go. All right, guys, so moving forward, we do have to put an antenna on the radio. Unfortunately, I think I had a cord maybe here, I don't remember, but we don't get any signal whatsoever when we're out in the water or pretty much anywhere, so I have to put an antenna on it. I went ahead and purchased this antenna right here. As you can see, we're gonna mount it on the side, and it's foldable, so it can go up and down. And we also got to reupholster the bottom side of this because I never did, and it looks like poo from the ground. So let's go and get this thing apart, and we'll fix that. Okay, so as I thought, I did have an antenna sitting here, though it doesn't work at all. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna drill a hole through the side right here. We're gonna mount this like this, and then obviously when we put the cover on, we'll be able to fold that down, and it'll be out of our way. So let me install that real quick. All right, so everything worked out good. I went ahead and replaced the bolts with, or the screws with some stainless steel screws. I didn't realize that the ones I used prior were not, and they were leaving rust marks. Also, I will be up front and say that the wood in this is starting to rot, so I'll probably end up using that same type of plastic that we used on our front loungers to make sure that that is repaired correctly, rather than using the marine plywood. I don't know why it's already falling apart. I thought it would have been okay, especially underneath the tent, but or the tarp. But you can see that that didn't work. So let's go ahead and move forward. All right. So the next thing that needs to be done is there's obviously no drain holes in these cup holders, which is a problem. So drain holes. All right, now I was going to attempt to polish out the tunes by myself, and then I realized, well, I'm just too lazy and I don't want to do that. So I think I'm going to pay somebody else to do that. However, this is the last and final step of what we're going to do to this pontoon this year. And you guys saw the thumbnail, so you know what's coming next. I'm going to put a jet ski right there. And yes, if you didn't realize already, that stand-up jet ski was designed to match this pontoon. So the idea is that you can have fun because it's the fun pontoon, chill and relax, but then you can jump out, run around on your stand-up if you want to. Now, the first step in doing that is I need to remove this because obviously that's in the way, and I need to build some sort of setup to hold the ski right there. My thoughts are that I'm running two 2x4s that are just like basically our padded rails right here that you see. And then what I'll probably do is put a winch on the front side to be able to pull it back up. And then I thought about on the side right here, maybe taking a piece of PVC, cutting a section out of it so it won't damage the ski when it comes up. So we do have a bit of height. So that's going to be a little bit tough right there, because if you look at it, this is our water line down here, which means we have roughly 2 feet almost, probably 22 inches. So that's kind of a hike to get it up. But the way the flat deck works is the nose sticks up anyhow when you're holding it. So it'll already be able to get up there. I just got to make sure that that doesn't mark. So enough talking, let's move forward. Let me take this off right here. We're going to start getting this thing put together. All right, so I went ahead and took off the rail right there, and I went ahead and made a bunk as I shared with you. And it's nothing but basically two 2x4s that are wrapped in some outdoor fabric carpet and some lower sections bolted to it or screwed to it. Now we're going to set it up here and we're going to bolt it on, assuming I made it the right length. I think I did. I did. Pretty much just like that. Put that to set on. And what we need to do is we need to again have to put something here to make sure that this doesn't damage the bottom of the hull. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of PVC, I'll cut a section out of it, and I will bolt it here so it can slide up that PVC. Now I do have some black. I don't know if I have the right size. I have to double check that it is. Before I even get to that though, I need to bolt this thing down so it doesn't move. All right, so again, I went ahead and took this piece off here, and I went ahead and carpeted even the lower parts, as you'll see. I didn't think it looked very good with exposed wood. I do kind of have regrets that I didn't put more staples down here, but it is what it is. So now that this thing is mounted on and not moving, it's time to move on to our safety guard which is an ABS tube right here. Now I chose ABS because it's what I had laying around. I will clean it up obviously, but I didn't want white PVC on there. The only downside to ABS is that it is a bit of a fragile plastic and not very forgiving, which just basically means that it could crack. So I guess we'll find out once we put it up here. We won't know until the weight of the jet ski's on it. It's not gonna be smashing against it or nothing, so that doesn't really matter. It's just gonna be sliding its weight up and over top of it. But again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this thing to length, and then I'm gonna cut basically a 90 out of this thing. And it's gonna sit over top of the edge right here with 2 screws in it, maybe 3 depending on how it lines up. And then hopefully that'll work. We'll slide the ski up on here and get this thing ready to be mounted up. All right, so I went ahead and cut the pipe down to size, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a 90 degree like this. I'm gonna kind of choose exactly how I want this thing to sit. This basically, depending on where I put it, the more stiff or more flex it's gonna have, but because it's ABS, we know it doesn't have a lot of flex. I think I'm gonna choose to go a little bit closer where that edge, and this is kind of simulating the edge of the boat, where it's gonna sit towards this plastic. Now, I don't want it right on top of it. I wanna have a little bit of flex, but not a whole lot. So it's gonna get cut down kind of like that. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead here and take a permanent marker, I'll put a mark right there and a mark down here. So you'll see there. And then basically at that point, I'm just gonna put tape all the way down this thing, straight down like this. I'm gonna cut this thing out with a jigsaw and it should fit right over top of it. Okay, so if you can see that, and I don't know if you can tell right here, these are my permanent marker marks, one right there, one right here, and then what I had is just ran tape all the way down it, so I have basically a guide. I can run this jigsaw all the way down it. So let me cut it out and show you what it looks like. All right, so there is our cut piece. Now at first I looked at it, I'm like, man, I think I messed up. I must have cut one of the pieces of tape on the wrong side. And then I realized it didn't, and that after you cut both sides, it's really just cut in half. So for those of you that are out there overthinking this, just cut the stupid thing in half. Anyhow, let's go ahead and test fit this thing. Basically, that's about center. That's how it's going to sit. So pretty straightforward. I'm going to put a bolt straight down here. A screw, and a screw straight down here. I don't want obviously in the middle because I don't want the ski to scratch against it. So I'll put those in, then I'll hit this with a light sandpaper and make sure that all the numbers and stuff are taken off this thing so it doesn't look like a piece of ABS pipe. Well, as much as I can make it not look like a piece of ABS pipe, I don't know. Anyways, let me put it on real quick. I'll show you what it looks like. And so there you guys have it. It looks like it's going to actually work pretty darn well. So moving forward here, our next point of business, well, was going to be putting a winch from good old HFT on the front of this thing, a powered winch, just like we did in the enclosed trailer. I kind of give you a clip on the, it was the snowmobile video, which you probably didn't see because everybody hated that video because it's, well, the project sucked. Anyhow, that's how we're going to hold that thing up on the front of the boat. And they don't have any in stock, so now I have to come up with something else. I don't know if I'll come up with a manual winch or what I'm going to do, but before we do that, the next step is going to be putting that jet ski on right there, so let's get into it. All right, guys, and so there you have it. There is a jet ski on a pontoon. Again, I'm sure somebody else has done it, but I have not seen anybody on the internet do this, so I'm pretty sure that I'm one of the first people to do it, at least that's documented it. Anyhow, I actually lifted that thing up there by myself. Don't ask me how, it's whatever, but all I pretty much really did was just, I kind of tilted it on there like that and then lifted the back end up and slid it on. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but I'm sure my back will disagree with me tomorrow. Nonetheless, it got up there. Our ABS piece actually held up a couple little scratches. It probably wouldn't happen if you had it in the water, I would say. As far as the winch, I can't do nothing about it right now. I was gonna buy a manual winch. The problem is if you look where I have to basically attach it to up here from down there, it's straight above it. Now that would work with a powered electric winch, but obviously you couldn't do a rounded hand crank one. However, Freight has one that goes this way. It is awful. I've bought it before. It's super slow because it's got like a worm gear or something. Anyhow, that also wouldn't work though because it'd have to go straight up. It just wouldn't work well with it. It'd be very hard. So I do want to wait for the electric one, and unfortunately, again, they don't have that in stock, so that's not going to be part of this video. However, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I know that it's not something that's normally done, but I think for, you know, if you're out on the pontoon and it's boring, you're sitting around, you want to do something a little fun, you can pull your jet ski right off it and go riding. I mean, I don't think it gets much better than that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Again, this is something a lot of people asked for, and I just had kind of a little bit of a spice in the end of it there. So if you guys did like it, definitely throw that thumbs up, and if you're not already, click that subscribe button, and I'm gonna see you on the next one.